And now going to call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. I ask you to all stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, attendance, one elected chair is present. Ricky Poole here. Present. Neil Mascola. Here. Eileen Bronco.
Here.
AJ. Siamo.
I don't see.
AJ is absent and Tom Kiernan is also absent. We do have a quorum. We're going to continue. Our first public hearing is actually at 6:05. So to save a little bit of time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to new business item 4B. And this is going to be a commission discussion, possible decision for a site plan modification for additional vacuum for the property located at 1015 New Haven Road, applicant Reed Taylor, Sophie's Car Wash. Mr. Taylor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Whit. Brought a couple of pictures here to help facilitate the conversation. Copy. Share it for copies for everyone here. Colored, but to get the point across.
You just state your name and address.
Yep. My name is Reed Taylor. It's at 1015 New Haven Road, Sophie's Car Wash. I'm the owner. And then just explain the project.
Yep.
All right, so the goal here is to expand and replace what is a bit of an outdated vacuum technology. That's single silver canisters there. For those of you that have seen the location, we have 4 of them on site, and that allows 1 hose per parking spot, and the hose is not all that high powered. This would replace it with a centralized vacuum system, a little bit more modern. Each parking spot would have dual hoses, so 1 on either side. It increases the throughput in which customers can come through the location. If you've ever visited us on a busy Saturday, we tend to have all 4 spots pretty maxed out, and sometimes even cars kind of parking in funny places on the lot waiting for vacuums. So this should give us 6 spots instead of 4. And then again, 2 hoses per spot, 1 on either side, which will increase the throughput. You can see in the first photos, I think it's on slide 2, these are red overhead umbrella arches that look very visually appealing from the roadside. And they are powered by a central compressor, turbine and separator. It's also a fairly attractive piece of equipment. We would put that on a concrete pad at the end of the vacuums, kind of in that grass patch. And then on the final image, you can see I've kind of put a white box where that concrete pad would go, just to show you that it will not block the stop sign, taking that turn onto New Haven Road. It will not block visibility of cars, being able to see traffic in both directions, pulling either out of the car wash or out of Weed Avenue onto New Haven Road.
But one question, as far as the level of noise.
They tend
As
to actually
compared
be,
to what you have now.
they actually tend to be quieter because it's a centralized system that has some noise dampening technology in it. So the centralized systems are actually quieter than if you had all 4 of these silver vacuum canisters running.
The rest of the commissioners remember that was one of the biggest concerns. Looking at this, with the car wash, with the one set of one building that was behind it, that was their biggest concern, that and the blowers. And like I said, they're saying it's going to be quieter and it's actually farther away than the 2 existing. Take a look at the map, you can see the existing is actually like the 3rd and 4th bay. The existing vacuums right now. So this actually takes this entire unit, moves it closer to the Haven Road, so it should actually quiet the town quite a bit. And I drive by this thing at least 6 times a day. Pretty much back what it says, particularly on Saturdays. Saturdays, you do get a group of cars lined up over here waiting to use the vacuums. So this will actually make things, I think, run a little bit smoother down there.
It should. It should take the average time someone uses the slot down as well, because having a hose on both sides, if you're not dragging the hose through your vehicle, or sometimes people back their car out, pull into another spot. It should just be pull in, 2 to 3 minutes aside with a higher powered system, and then they can get out and get a spot up.
So it's pretty equal to what they did on.
One of the other rubber.
Very similar.
Very
If you
similar.
picture Rubber Avenue, they only have a single hose
Yeah.
in between cars. And so I'll have what's called double drops. in between cars, which should allow, if you and I are next to each other in adjacent spots, we would each have a dedicated hose on both sides, which, again, I mean, we're splitting hairs, but that should be a higher throughput way to do it with the double drop.
And I think there's a car wash up in Watertown, in the main drive there, I forget the name of the road. I've driven up that road several times in the past 2 weeks. I saw the same color setup there. And saw the way it was working.
The manufacturer we're going with is Tech, and they, there's a handful of companies that make it. Tech is well regarded. It's making some of the best equipment and some of the best looking equipment.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Just have one for staff. Was this approved as a special permit or as a site?
Site plan modification.
No, it was originally a special permit.
So, this modifies the site plan way. Is there any change in the zoning, any the distances since this was approved? I'm not sure what the date was.
No.
Any of the setback.
This was only approved 2 years ago.
Oh, okay, that's fine. So it was a special permit, so this would appear to be, the chair could probably determine, or the staff, the commission can determine whether or not this is a substantial change. Probably, my guess is probably it's not, since we're just creating vacuums. Okay, fine, that's my question.
All right, so at this point, I would entertain a motion as to whether or not this is a minor change to the property.
That's not on the sheet.
It's not on the sheet, right? So in
So
other
I
words,
make a motion that it's not a major, change, that it's a minor change.
all right, we have a motion, we have a second. You seconded, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now, we're basically left, I would entertain a motion then to approve the site plan modification application for the proposed new self-serve vacuum location located at 1015 Peyton Road. Applicant retailer Sobeys Car Wash.
So moved.
Have a first, do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good luck, sir.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.
See you down at the call.
Good luck on your new business.
Thank you.
He just 3-4 months.
I did in July.
Yeah.
It's been great being in the community. I enjoyed it. Thank you all.
No, you're all set. When you leave downstairs, just make sure you push the door closed.
Okay, at this point, I think we'll move back to our public hearing. And this is a public hearing for a proposed special permit application for a 1 megawatt solar panel facility for the property located at 0 Bosco Drive, account number 016-9188, applicant Tritech Americas LLC. And we'll open this public hearing at 6:09. That work for everyone?
Like I said, you did get a satellite image with the overlay on it. And they're going to be giving you some more information stuff tonight.
Trash, as I read it. Everybody gets it back? Of course.
One more, or is that everybody?
There are 4 commissioners.
I don't need it.
That's all I care about, the commissioners.
Let's work at.
Yes, it should be able to pick it up.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Chris Gagnon. I'm a professional engineer here in Connecticut. I work at BL Companies, 355 Research Parkway in Meriden, Connecticut. I'm here today representing the applicant, Tritech Americas LLC. And we are in front of you today with a just under 1 megawatt proposed solar array going in on the top of the hill of 0 Bosco Drive. And if you'll indulge me for a little bit as to jurisdictionally why we're here, I'd like to kind of get that on the record so we can kind of understand the process that we take to get here solar wise. So here in Connecticut, obviously we all know we pay our Eversource bill. So Eversource is the electric utility provider for the state in this area. And when you're proposing a solar project, what you do is you develop a concept plan and you say to Eversource, hey, I can give you power at this rate for this many years, plus or minus 10, 12, 15 cents a kilowatt hour, whatever the case may be. Number of projects get submitted to what we call the Eversource auction. And then Eversource makes a decision as to whether they would like to buy our power or not. This project was submitted into the Eversource auction in June, July. It was awarded, and now we need to go through the permitting process. So that's how we start with Eversource. So this project has been selected and approved by Eversource as a project that they will allow to interconnect into their system. Okay, so the next step is we need to get this permitted. As I'm sure you all are aware, there's a entity here in Connecticut, the Connecticut Siting Council. They oversee cell towers, they oversee things that will be coming up more often now, fuel cells, they oversee solar developments, etc. They have a number of things that they have jurisdiction. However, for solar sites, we're only triggered to go see them if we're over 1 megawatt of power. So that because this site, the way it sets up, we're just under that 1 megawatt, we're left in, we have a fork in the road here. I can either still go through the Connecticut Siting Council, or we could approach the local commission and say, we'd like to get this approved locally. Due to the size of the site and our desire to work locally, we approached the town staff and said, hey, we have this project, please let us know the path which we need to take to get it approved through your commission. So since that time, I have gone through the Wetlands Commission. We have met with the Planning Commission, and we're still waiting on their final recommendation. And this opens our public hearing here in the zoning commission, so that that we can get through this local process. So just to add a little bit to that, there are some towns where they said, we don't want to deal with solar at all, even though you're under 1 megawatt, go to the Connecticut Siting Council anyway. So that is it is a possibility. However, you know, we want to have the town be as engaged as possible with these projects because the Connecticut Siting Council, while they look for comments from the town, the town is essentially outside of the process. So for where I come from, civil engineer, land development, been working with commissions like this my whole life. When we have the opportunity to be in front of this commission, rather than go around them, I think that it makes the most sense to be here in front of you. So that's what brings us here today. So that's kind of why I'm here today. So So what are we proposing for you? So currently, Bosco Drive is it's a street. The map has been filed with the town records. It is an official right of way. So it's an existing road, which goes up to the knob, the high point on the property. And at this high point on the property, we're proposing to construct just under 1 megawatt solar array. And what this consists of are they're called single access tracking panels. So these panels will not be stationary panels. They're on an axis, and they follow the sun as the day goes on, and then at night they slowly bring themselves back, and morning comes and they repeat over again. So it allows us to be a little more efficient with a little smaller footprint by using that type of tracking panel. So then the infrastructure associated with these sites are obviously the panels. We are also showing the inverters, which takes the magic that the panels do inside them and converts it from the DC power to the AC power, trucks it through the conduit, and then we have an equipment pad here, which will then take it to an overhead line and down to the street. For this site, depending on the layout of the site, some of them we have a road that goes to the middle. For this site, we're proposing an access road that goes around the site, simple 12-foot wide gravel access road. And then the other important component of these sites is the stormwater management. So we are proposing 2 stormwater ponds on either side. This it's kind of a turtle's back type site, and so a drop of water here is going to end up in this pond, and this drop of water here ends up down in this pond. So it's really a very simple layout. It's not as, we don't have parking, we don't have handicap spaces, we don't have stormwater conveyance systems, we don't have sewer lines, we don't have water lines. So it's a fairly simple site layout. So that's what we have. And then another component jurisdictionally, which I should have mentioned before, due to the size of this development, we're just over that 5 acres of disturbance. So upon obtaining a local approval, we would then need to go to the DEP to obtain a general permit for stormwater discharge from construction activities. And why I mentioned that, the DEP has a section in their regulations which dictates how we analyze this site in terms of the stormwater management. So that that manual indicates that these solar panels themselves, we need to analyze them as if they were impervious areas. So so that's why you need to propose some stormwater basins on either side of it to mitigate the potential increase in stormwater runoff coming from the panels. A couple other things that I think are very important to mention with the documents in front of you, as a additional buffer, we are proposing some fairly significant plantings on just outside of the fence line. And these are types of evergreens that will get planted. I'm not a landscape architect, but you might be cringing with calling them evergreens, but as far as I'm concerned, they're evergreen plantings, so not deciduous trees. They're not going to lose their leaves, so they provide a vegetative buffer between the residential properties on either side of the site. And another important component with respect to landscaping, the ground cover proposed underneath the panels is a meadow type ground cover that will need, minimal maintenance in terms of mowing. But this is not going to be a big giant gravel pad like you would see at a substation or something like that. Speaking of substations, a question that we received a lot is security related to these sites. We had originally proposed a 6-foot tall fence around the development, but in hearing concerns from the planning commission, we are proposing a 8-foot tall fence around it. Contemplated something a little more aggressive, barbed wire or something like that. As far as we're concerned, the visual of that, the benefits of adding that, it doesn't balance out how it's going to make it look like a penitentiary or something like that. So we're just going to propose a taller fence, an 8-foot tall fence, which is really tricky to get up and over. And we have the vegetated buffer as well to screen the development from the site. We have received comments from the town engineer. We have responded to this comments. These plans are revised to address those comments, things about the details, access road detail, some questions about the stormwater management. We've provided all that information. He hasn't seen it yet. It was only a week or so ago that we got the comments. So, but I knew we were just opening the hearing tonight because we still have that step with the planning commission. So I understand this is not an action meeting, but they let me get in front of you guys meeting and hear any questions or comments that you folks may have. We also received some comments from the public as well, which I have reviewed. Haven't had the time to provide any formal responses to that because we got those today. But I think at this point, I'd be happy to address any questions that you folks may have, and we can maybe get into the public comments if you would like. And I'm sure since it's a public hearing, we may throw it to them as well. And this thing pumps out some heat. So with that, I'd be happy to respond to any questions that anyone may have.
Answer fine.
Just in general, I said one in general, you mentioned it, the type of fencing.
Right now, we're proposing a chain link fence, typical chain link fence.
With some type of screening on the fence, like the panels going in. I know that was discussed at one point. Are you just talking a regular chain link right now?
As of right now, it is a standard 8-foot tall chain link fence. That's what's on the table. We're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but that's what's on the table.
Why don't we go to the public? You're going to handle that, Laura? Or are there any comments from the public? If there is, Lori is, town planner is going to go to each of you and find out if we have any questions or comments.
All right, Christine Yanelli, your hand is up.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to lower my hand.
You have to hold it up. No, go ahead.
A bit later. Yeah, I'm Christine Yanelli, Nocta, Connecticut, Chestnut Street, Conservation Commissioner. I've read this solar farm a couple of times in the paper, and I just thought I'd make some comments about green fields versus brown fields. And, you know, I'm not against solar farms. I think solar farms are the way to go for alternative energy. And well, I don't know about cutting trees up there on Bosco Drive, but if there's a lot of trees that need to be cut, that would kind of do a dishonor to our whole environment because, the trees take in carbon dioxide and they give off oxygen. So we wouldn't want a lot of trees to be cut. And I know it's only 1 megabyte of solar farms that are going in there. But when I look around Naugatuck, I've grown up in Naugatuck all my life. I see a lot of brownfields for solar farms. And off the top of my head, I'm thinking of the parking lots between Ward Street and Elm Street, where the chemical employees used to park their vehicles. There's an area right there that would be a solar farm. And the area alongside Cherry Street Extension past house number 362 Cherry Street Extension, where decades ago, there were piles of rubber stock for decades and tires were piled up in this area. And that could also be used as a brownfield for a solar farm as well. And then we have Laurel Park landfill on top of Hunter's Mountain that could be used for a solar farm. And these areas are located in the southern part of Naugatuck. And I feel that they would make an excellent place, a spot for solar farms. So I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know why it has to be over in Bosco Drive area. I know it's in a field where wood turtles have been found. And I don't know if there's been any flora fauna survey going on there or a soil analysis going on up there. So those are questions I have to ask you. And just to keep in mind all the brownfields that we do have in Naugatuck. I don't want to have to mention the Peter Paul area because that seems to be already being used for diesel fuel and freight diesel transportation and so forth and so on, and that's on hold. But the other areas that I mentioned are certainly available for any kind of solar farm, larger one than what you're talking about, sir. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak?
Yeah.
Barbara?
It's actually John. I'm using her computer. Yeah, I have the same concern as Ms. Yanelli. I'd
First,
like
you
to,
always list your name and address first.
John Ferrer, 123 Evelyn Drive, Naugatuck. And Evelyn Drive is very close to Bosco Drive, so it would have an impact on us. I have the same concern as Ms. Yanelli. I would like to know how much of that property is wooded and how much would be clear cut? How much is going to be clear cut? Can somebody answer that question?
I believe the applicant will answer all questions after he receives all of them at the end.
The applicant will answer questions at the end. He may
Okay.
not have the answers to everything, and he may bring answers back at our next meeting.
Okay, well, I would like to get an answer to that. Thank you.
Next, Scott. You could unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Scott Fitzgerald. I'm at 54 Farmstead Lane. My property is almost adjacent to where this is being proposed. So when I'm concerned with clearing the land up there. Second, we're on well water here. I'm concerned about ground contamination and what it's going to do to my property value. All right, we're in a rural area, and now we're proposing to drop in a commercial activity in my backyard. So I'd like to understand what that impact is, what guarantees we're going to have that, you know, in 5 years, I'm not going to have a problem with my well.
that all, Scott?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Michelle?
Yes. My name is Anthony Oren, joined by my wife, Inga Oren. We live at 66 Farmstead Lane. Just to make it fully transparent, outside of our window right now, we're facing the wooded area that we're discussing. Our primary concern, and it's not so much a question, it's more of a comment, is that we believe due to this being residential zone, that this use of the land is not appropriate. And so without asking too many questions, we would like to respectfully inform the commission that as the property owners, the adjacent parties to this property, we have engaged counsel and also appropriate consultants to review the impact of this development on the surrounding sites. And would like to request the opportunity to present these findings at the next meeting, which I understand is sometime in November. Can you please confirm that there will be a second hearing, in fact, in November? And please provide us the date and time so we can notate that. Thank you.
There will be this will be continued to next month at our meeting, which I believe is November 17th. So at the end of this hearing, we will continue it and set the time, which more than likely will be again 6:05 p.m. on November 17th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before you go further, Wayne, I noticed that AJ is on Zoom, and you could recognize him in the meeting.
I will at this point appoint AJ in place of Tom Kiernan. 6:32.
Hello.
1 second.
Michelle? You can speak now, you just have to, there you go.
Okay, hi. My name's Michelle Gambasini. I live on 189 Graham Ridge Road in Naugatuck, and I'm very close to the property, not as close as others, but I think I'm downhill. And I also share the concern about the groundwater and our wells. And I know that we have, I have a list of a couple of things. I know that we have a lot of animals through our yard, and I'm really worried about the displacement of the deer and everything that we have. I'm concerned about the impact of the noise with the construction, and especially in maintenance. I'm not sure what, and even low noise, I don't know enough about this, I guess, to know what, I know that like power lines have a low hum, and I don't know if the solar panels would have some kind of low grade noise that we might hear. So that what's that environmental impact? And then the stormwater management, I guess it just goes along with the wells. I'm just concerned about that and our property values. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Michelle. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak?
I would.
Okay, Brian.
Yeah, my name is Brian Swiderski. I'm at 102 Graham Ridge Road. And I have the concerns that the other people who spoke do. One thing that, well, there's a lot of things. I'm worried about the groundwater, and that I know that these photovoltaic cells, they have lead, they have cadmium. Both of them are carcinogenic, and they can get into our wells. I'm worried about the disposal of solar panels after they've run through the useful life. Those contaminants could pollute the groundwater wherever they're disposed of. I don't know where that would be. There's the issue of the panels having electromagnetic like rays that come through that is a hazardous to human health. And has shown that it does decrease the longevity, of people there in their health. Also, well, some other experiences like Naugatuck High School had solar panels put into their roof. And I guess there was an issue with them. And, but then the solar company was bankrupt and there was no, I guess we had to get all new panels. So I don't know, of how stable that this company is. There's also, I have seen in the area eastern box turtles. I would like to, I don't want to see them be disrupted. Also, there's a quality of life issue with, we're used to seeing animals. I've got everything that come through my yard. I don't know how that's going to disrupt the animals, but we do enjoy seeing the wildlife. I've seen turkeys run across my yard. I've seen deer walking down the middle of the street. Those are all, things that I'm sure most people enjoy to see. And I don't want to see that disrupted. Also up in our area here, we're paying a lot in taxes. I just don't see where this fits into our neighborhood. We have a nice neighborhood here, and I think I agree with Christine that it probably should be looking at a brownfield to basically redo so that it's a useful area again, instead of messing with something that is all nice and natural and that everybody enjoys. I think that's everything that I have.
Brian, anybody else?
So I did receive 2 letters in regard to this. One of them, I believe, was emailed out to all the commissioners. So I will read that into the record. First one, dear zoning commission, as an adjacent property owner at 171 Ram Ridge Road to the proposed 1 megawatt solar panel power generation facility located at 0 Bosco Drive, my wife and I have some questions and concerns. Environmental concerns. Has an environmental impact study been done to evaluate the effects a 5-acre solar panel array facility would have to the land at the array site, wildlife, surrounding woodlands, and aquifer? Number 2, are there any threatened or endangered species of wildlife that uses this land as part of its habitat? For instance, we have owls in the backwoods, and I didn't realize the barn owl is in danger. Can't say if it's barn owls back there at night. Maybe DEEP specialists could take a look. Number 3, water drainage from the site. Clearly, the landscape will be disturbed and likely natural absorption into the soil at the summit of Lewis Hill will be altered. What impact will there be on the near surface water table that provides water for the vegetation and trees in the surrounding woodlands and ultimately the aquifer deeper down? Number 4 has the inevitable heat generated over the site from the panels absorbing and radiating heat into the ambient air been taken into account. With solar panel array sites, there is surprising temperature rise that can be hotter than a paved parking lot in the direct sunlight that will last into the overnight hours. Below is a publication in Nature that cites this empirical study done at a desert site, and there he had a link, but you did all receive that. Please note, photovoltaic cells are only 15 to 20% efficient. The rest of the solar radiation is wasted as heat either conducted into the ground via convection and radiation passed into the surrounding air. This rise in temperature The possible altering of the site water table may lead to a surrounding woodland die-off. Has this been considered? Safety concerns. Currently, the site is a meadow and some woodlands. The risk of fire is predominantly due to a lightning strike. By building this facility with all its earth-grounded structures will likely make a lightning strike more possible, not unlike having a radio tower or other metal structures. In addition, you will now have electrical short and arcing as a source of ignition due to the voltages and currents generated at the site over 5 acres of land. With this increased fire risk, has a plan been created to address fire danger at the site and the spread of the fire into surrounding woodlands and residential homes? These types of facilities do have fires and are on the rise as indicated in PV magazine. And again, there was a link in there. As you may be aware, there is no city water up here in Westover Hills and surrounding streets. About 15 or more years ago, a home burnt to the foundation on Grand Ridge Road, in part due to a lack of water tanker trucks. In regard to water, tanker trucks had to be brought in from the surrounding towns to keep the fire from spreading to nearby homes. Number two, will there be water cisterns or some form of appreciable water supplies to address a fire at the site to keep it from spreading further out into our backyards and homes? Number three, will there be a paved or gravel road that fire trucks can easily travel on to get onto the site and surrounding woods to put out any fire? Number four, will there be a reverse 911 service to inform neighbors that a fire has broken out at the facility? Number five, how will the transmission lines from the facility connect to the local Eversource grid be accomplished, i.e. underground or above ground? Number six, will there be a chain link fence with barbed wire like you see surrounding Eversource substations surrounding the site to keep trespassers out, especially children? While we can see how the leaser will benefit as well as the solar panel company and Eversource from having this 5-acre megawatt solar panel site built, how will Eversource customers and taxpayers in Naugatuck benefit from this or improve the quality of lives as well as our residential neighborhoods? Is the mixed use of residential and commercial industrial zoning being the new norm here in Naugatuck? Solar power is a useful source of energy during daylight hours. Without energy storage, it's useless once the sun sets. Also, as emerging technology, it has a long way to go. There are risks associated with installing and operating such power generation sites. All these risks need to be assessed and plans put in place for the safety of all before a green light is given to proceed with such a project. Using solar energy on buildings and homes makes more sense since it's a dual situation and no additional land use has to be considered. Clearing a field and placing 5 acres solar farm smack dab in the middle of a residential area is a single-use application and not an efficient use of land. In a way, it is counterintuitive to cut down trees and clear vegetation that scrubs the carbon dioxide out of the air and makes the oxygen we need to survive in the name of reducing our carbon footprint in hopes of reducing greenhouse gases. When considering green energy, you need to look at all the risks and benefits to make a just decision. The best choice is placing these structures onto buildings like we did at the high school and has done on the roofs of many factory buildings. My employer put a 2-megawatt system on the roof of the factory to cut energy costs, but they didn't cut down the wood surrounding the building to achieve that goal. We hope to make next week's Zoom meeting on this subject, but I'd like to enter this email to the Zoning Commission as part of the public record. Best regards, Sylvester and Cynthia Jando, 171 Grand Ridge Road, Naugatuck, Connecticut. I have one more. And this is from the Heritage Benefit Consultants Inc. Retirement Plan, owner of lot 26, Grand Ridge Road, Naugatuck, Connecticut. Dated October 20th, 2021, Zoning Commission, Borough of Naugatuck, Land Use 229 Church Street, Naugatuck, Connecticut, Solar Farm 0, Bosco Drive Special Permit Application. Dear Zoning Commission members, I am a trustee of the Heritage Benefit Consultants Inc. Retirement Plan, which owns a parcel of land that is located on Grand Ridge Road, lot 26, which adjoins the subject property. First, I want the commission to know that I have no objections to solar energy or other forms of alternative energy uses, but it must be done in the context of public safety, health, and welfare of the broader public interest. I reviewed the overall site plan prepared by BL Companies on behalf of the applicant Tritech Americas LLC, who are proposing a 1 megawatt solar panel facility. I've also reviewed the memo to the question prepared by James Stewart, Director of Public Works, which lists a plethora of requests that need to be addressed before any action should be taken by the commission. My comments and concerns to this special permit application are as follows. 1, fire protection. Mitigating the risk of fire on a utility scale solar facility has not been adequately addressed. Solar panel facilities are subject to fires due to electrical equipment failures, which can be intensified due to dry, windy conditions, wildlife accidents, and electrical arcing from voltage power variances. This property is adjacent to hundreds of acres of wooded open space in Naugatuck and Middlebury, as well as the State Larkin Bridle Trail. Land conservation is a vital concern. I have lived in the Westover Hills subdivision since 1993. I know that there are no fire hydrants in the development. The only water source for fire protection are a few underground water cisterns. A plan for fire protection, including additional water sources, needs to be considered for this project. Buffers to number 2, buffers to a residential zone. This utility use is no different than any other industrial commercial use, as the facility requires significant alteration to the landscape, located at a higher level of elevation than the surrounding properties, which is currently rural and wooded, and could have an impact on property values which adjoin it. The existing industrial commercial zones require a minimum of 50-foot undisturbed buffer to any residential zone. This should be a minimum required by the commission in the proposed disturbance limits for their fence line, which is in the range of 15 to 30 feet from the property line. Due to mixed prevailing wildlife in the area, a tall, solid perimeter fencing should be required. Number 3, access road. It appears from topo lines that the access road into the property is extremely steep. There is very little detail on how this will be pre-constructed and the impact on adjoining properties. The ability of fire trucks and emergency vehicles to access the site is paramount, so the drive and perimeter road design should be safe for larger emergency vehicles with smoother surfaces and gradual turning radiuses. Stormwater control, number 4. I am trusting that Mr. Stewart will be looking at this very closely to make sure downgrading properties will not see impacts to these properties. Number 5, zoning. The zoning regulations under section 23, schedule A, do not provide for solar panel facility as an allowable use in an R30 zone. Under part B, community facilities services, a special permit uses are allowed for public utility companies, electric, gas, and telephone substations and equipment buildings, or water systems and transmission communication towers. Nowhere are solar facilities mentioned of such a facility defined under section 4 definitions. I believe it is premature to consider a special permit application without the benefit of the commission presenting to the public an amendment to the zoning regulations that would provide standards for such use. Thank you for taking the time to consider my comments. I trust that you will act only in the best interest of the borough and its residents to address the concerns I raised. Very truly yours, Lisa Dean, Trustee, Heritage Benefit Consultants.
You're not ready to answer questions tonight, are you? I mean, you're gonna have quite a bit today.
It depends. I can answer the stormwater ones and some other things. So based on the fact that we have received written comments, based on the fact that we have received a number of comments from the public, what we would like to do is formally respond to all of these comments to make sure that every single one is addressed and on the record. I can anecdotally speak to some are answered in the materials already, but I also don't want to look like I'm picking and choosing and answering one person's question and not another person's question. I don't, that's certainly is not the intent, me being a stormwater engineer professional. I think I could probably nail all of those right now, but I don't want to make it look like I am picking and choosing, because I believe all the comments and questions from the public are very important and must be addressed officially. So with that, it would be our intent to, we have notes on the comments from the public. We have written comments from the public. We'd like to get access to the transcript of the hearing itself and provide written comments, written responses to all of these comments prior to the hearing next month. I think that would be in everyone's best interest. Appreciate that very much, to make sure. And then we would also like to request, should there be any additional comments coming from staff or the public, if we could receive those in plenty of time to understand them and address them prior to the hearing, that would also be appreciated, so we can come back with that. But also, if there are comments or questions from the commission, I do believe that is still appropriate to get those out there to make sure we don't miss that. So I'm still happy to hear it. So.
How long do you expect this to take? Installation, the whole project, before it's up and running? And when do you plan to start?
So the construction, based on working through the approval process, getting the general permit, finalizing the interconnection agreements, it would be, we're looking at end of first quarter next year, springtime next year, by the time everything is in place. And then it typically takes 6 to 8 months to construct again. It's not super complicated. And then we need to get the easements in place with Eversource. So it's, a year from today, give or take a month or two, is a typical process, with the understanding that we started the design and survey a few months ago. So the whole process from beginning to end is plus or minus 18 months.
Anything else? That much more than understand?
No, sir. How much noise does these generate?
They're essentially silent. Obviously there is the moving parts, but it's not a grinding of gears or.
So
anything
what's
like
the
that.
difference from like my neighbor's house that he has, and I'm close to it, and I hear the humming?
Not sure. I don't know what system your neighbor has on there, but
I guess my concern for the public is what is the noise level going to be? There's got to be some noise coming from somewhere.
yeah,
Right.
and just like with a warehouse project, when we can figure out what the impact of the noise is at a certain distance away, we can provide that information. That's a legitimate question for sure.
No, that was just about that there's got to be a manufacturer specification associated with the units themselves, so it could be computed as to what the decimal level is, certain distances away from the site. That can be done. Right. The second point I wanted to make is there was a comment about the applicant being a real man. There was a solar array approval for the entire lot. I'm not sure who was on the commission.
Yep.
There was a solar array approved.
Cherry
by-
Street Extension.
And I can't remember if it was Unor at the time.
Oh,
Might be
yeah.
Ventura. Might be
I remember.
Ventura.
Yep.
So there, just so that the applicant may not know, but because that was one of the questions why I wanted to do it. There was an approval on that site 8 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
It has expired and it was not built. But the applicant- that's something the applicant may not know.
I certainly was unaware of that, and as a general comment with respect to brownfields, Eversource certainly takes that into consideration. I know the commenter mentioned the landfill, things like that. That is, it is certainly part of Eversource's decision-making process, but it is not the only thing that they consider. And greenfields are indeed allowed, but brownfields are. It's a very accurate statement, and they are part of the process.
You talked about the meadow flowers that would be put on, but they won't grow under the panels. Or you expect they'll grow under the panels, which would be very dark?
Yeah, so these panels move, so it's, it is not completely shaded underneath it the whole time. And we have seen where it does get vegetation growth throughout the whole footprint of it. It's a shaded area. It's but it does, vegetation will grow throughout the site for sure.
Looks like from this picture that there's flowers here, but under where the panels are, there's nothing. It's dark.
We've seen it where essentially the entire site is vegetated. Yeah, it may not be as lush underneath there, just like all of us in our yard where it's a little shaded, the grass grows slightly different than in the sun, but you do still have grass under the shade of the trees.
There's any questions or comments right now?
Well, tonight you did receive in the packets from the applicant a response to Jim Stewart's review for engineering. You also received a storm management report that was a little shortened for you. There is larger ones. If you rather the larger one, which is this one, you're welcome. I can get one for you. But we usually get summary ones for you. So that's been provided to you also. You did the one thing, the only commission that we're waiting back from is the planning commission for their referral. It has gone before police and fire commissions and has been approved by both locations, or both commissions.
As far as this information, I would just assume give us a chance to absorb that over the next month, because you're going to work on your questions. So with that being said, what I'd like to do is continue this hearing to November 17th at 6:05 p.m. Thank you all for tonight.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you to the public for your comments. Thank you to town staff for all the collaboration, and thanks to the commission for taking the time tonight. We'll look forward to getting you answers on everything and seeing you next month.
Thank you. See you in a month.
Yeah, the extras that we need to get.
We do have a second public hearing, but I think I'm going to skip over that for a moment. And what I'd like to do is I would actually, at this point, accept a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting dated 7/15/2021.
I move that I have a correction.
Okay, correction?
The regular meeting minutes that state August 18th.
Oh, at the top.
Can I accept the motion to accept I would take a motion to accept the minutes as corrected. Second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. The next thing what I would like to do is over to new business 4A. And this is an update for a site plan modification for One Stop Auto at 251 Rubber Avenue. Good evening, sir.
Tim, why don't you go right up, right over there? Right on the other side. You could pull that way, right there would be good.
The small claims thing Marcus, 253 Crossroads, Waterbury, Connecticut. Property owner of 251 Rubber Avenue. So,
I'm sorry, could you ask him to get a little closer to the microphone? It's really hard to hear him.
Can't
hear him.
Can we,
Actually, if you use Neil's mic there.
sorry,
You can step right up to it.
I'm Tim from, I live at 253 Crossroads, Waterbury, Connecticut, and I'm the property owner of 251 Rubber Avenue. And I'm here to give an update of site plan modification. We ran into some trouble due to the COVID with materials and supplies. Originally, we were gonna go with a plastic, a vinyl fence. Turns out we had this thing ordered for months and they're just not giving me an update of when I would actually have it. So I ended up having to change it to a chain link style fence, which we.
And chain link was what you had there before.
We did have a chain link there before, yes. The difference was that was 6, this one's 8. What I did get was it's a screen, green screen that will be able to go up as far as for some privacy, provided for the neighbors. There's some houses behind us and given, them courtesy there. And what we got was we got some green giant arborvitaes, which should grow 2 or so feet a year. We planted 2 rows, 6 feet, and then some smaller ones in between those. So there's 2 rows of those. So we also.
Are the trees in the ground yet?
Can I pass these around? This is just the picture that this is hard to tell because it's a black and white, but if you guys can take a look at the baby tree. So we need about 12 more, which should be supposedly here by Wednesday, to complete it all the way across. The fence is up. There's 15 feet. That's pretty much just about flat on the top. And the trees take up all that area there.
So have you put the screening up yet on the fence?
The screen is not, and the other thing that I wanted to ask the rest of the commission was we originally talked about putting grass up there. And the reason was because my landlord wanted me out at the other place, so we were gonna just throw something at it, stabilize this thing, and try to concentrate on putting up the paint. I want this thing to be nice, so when people come in, it doesn't look crazy. So I wanted to bring this thing back and pay the extra money to get this guy, since he's there, to get this thing back to the 2-to-1, stabilizing the bank, making it look more presentable, So we're trying to do that. So David Hughes has been working with me as the surveyor. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here tonight. I was really hoping he would be able to be here tonight. But unfortunately, he had prior obligations. So did you get my message?
Yes.
Okay. But I was hoping by the next meeting, if we could schedule a meeting for the next meeting, that we could have a map all set with new parking and this project completed with this bank being stable. What I wanted to ask the commission was, suppose we do grass, can we do wood chips? David Hughes says, as long as we put the fabric down through the whole thing, put wood chips on there, that he thinks that there would be no problem with that. Originally, we talked about grass, and to make it, like I said, we're trying to make this more permanent for now.
So what you're asking is the landscape buffer area, you want to put wood chips there.
Yes, yeah, as opposed to grass.
And I did provide you guys with a smaller version of the print. So you can see there's a 40-foot buffer area there at the top. My concern is that I saw drainage pipes up there that are not on the plans.
Right, so.
So
This is.
where did
already,
that come from?
David Hughes, the surveyor, he did go up there, they did say that temporary drainage will definitely help stabilize this bank, which he will be putting on a map. He actually talked about more than one of them, but right now, what we did on the very top of, you see this gravel up there for the original, right by the fence, to try to stabilize some of that bank to be getting soaking wet, because water, there actually was a pipe running through, it was like a clay pipe or something, an old one there, that was damaged, and
Well, my question is why was the pipe put in already by you guys? When I went there and I see that it's done. And why didn't you come to us before to let us know what you want to do there?
like,
I mean, we have no idea what size the pipe is, what it's connecting to, where it's going to. Maybe Jim can answer more to that, but we,
but as a
those are
break-
things we brought up to you, that if you're going to be changing, you've got to. We've asked you in the past to stop doing things without coming to us.
Right, well, like I said, it's my conversation with David Hughes was saying, whatever we're doing now, it's gonna be considered temporary. This will stabilize and help all this be put in place, and then he was gonna be revising this map with everything more permanent, you know, eventually, of course, down the bottom, we're gonna have new drains and stuff like that, you know, but we're not even close to there yet. But,
So you're suggesting that you're going to stop your work right now as is, because you have to come back to us with a plan to show us what you want to do.
well,
So you're going to be on hold.
no, what I'm trying to say, we're gonna finish what we started, you know, finish the rest of the trees, and if it's okay to put wood chips as opposed to grass, then, you know, with this, you know, the excavator finishing the 2-to-1 pitch, which makes the bank stable, then before hopefully that satisfies the concerns, and then we can talk about phase 3 or maybe phase 2, because I think I have the 1 and 3, and then 2 is going to be the future. If I'm on the same page.
I understand what you're saying, but personally, I don't think any of us are qualified to sit there and say that wood chips are going to stabilize it as much as grass is going to stabilize it. And it would have been very helpful if you had your engineer here to explain that to us.
Right.
And you're saying that the pipes are temporary. Are you saying they're temporary and you're going to take them out? Or they're temporary because they're not on your plan yet?
Once again, like I said, I was really hoping David could be here to give you better, but he did say that don't worry about it. Give him an update on what we got so far, and then next month, hopefully he will be here to be able to.
To answer your question, could you put wood chips in place of the grass? I'd be leaning towards no. You can certainly put that to a vote if you like. But I have no idea if wood chips are equal to what the grass is going to do. Grass is going to root itself. It's going to absorb water. Wood chips, I think, are going to wash away, particularly with the steepness of that hill that you have.
Yeah, generally, wood chips are only considered temporary measure.
Okay.
I mean, Tim, I've been out there multiple times. This, every time I go out there, I see something that wasn't supposed to be done. So I'm more disturbed about the pipes being put in, because it just seems like that guy you hired does what he wants and doesn't come to us. So this plan is what was approved. And now we've got drainage up there. We don't have grass. We don't have the right trees that were there originally that were planned. And the trees may not be that big of a deal, but my concern is wood chips are entirely different than what we expected.
Well, I mean, I suggested pack of Sandra, but David he was sure that he was like, well, if the weed mat's down, wood chips or mulch or whatever, you know what I mean? It's basically like.
We don't even know the slope.
So they're still working on it. I mean, like I said, we're just so far behind because we couldn't do nothing until the fence was in, and it just was, plus he was on another job in the meantime.
But he found time to put the drains in. the pipes in there.
Well, just on the top of the, we did, you know, on the very top where the drain was already, we just replaced that existing one. Like I said, you know, this stabilizes the bank, because it was a lot coming through that. I mean, it runs down like a river. So.
I'm not saying that's not,
Turns into mud.
that's not something that's needed there. I'm not saying it's not, it may be. But
I think what you should have done was come back to the commission and said, we want to change the plan and we want to do this. And here's the reason why. And come back with a plan to show us what you're doing. You can't just arbitrarily say, okay, I think this is going to be better. Let's put the pipe in and let's put wood chips in place of the grass. This is what we agreed to.
Yeah.
So any changes you're going to make, this commission has to approve it first.
Right. Well, we didn't, that's what I'm asking. Can we do that as opposed to grass or not? We didn't do that. I didn't want to do anything.
Okay, give me a report from your engineer that says that the wood chips are equal to the grass and we'll consider it.
Right.
But until that time, do not put wood chips.
Right, yes, that's what I'm here to ask anyway. So
So I think as
hopefully by
Ed
next.
Carter, our CEO, said, at this point, you're on hold. Unless you want to follow this plan, you're on hold right now. Until we get your engineer here with his report.
Well, as far as putting anything down, but he's still finishing the grade and the trees up top, you know, it's like.
No, the
15
drains
trees.
on top are not part of this plan.
Not.
no,
trees.
he's talking about the trees.
Oh, the trees, I'm
The
sorry. I thought
trees,
you
yeah,
said
the
drains.
trees, the fence, that's all
Okay.
part of phase one.
Right, that was all
That
part of
pipe
phase
should
one.
not be connected
Continue
to
with that.
anything until we see it on this plan.
Yes, okay,
All right, so we'll see you next month.
yes. What's
Thank
the
you,
date of the-
November 17th.
Okay.
I'll be in touch with you about that. So
Yeah.
you're gonna have to update the plan to show us and have someone explain to us why that drain pipe or where that drain pipe is there. And
Has to be shown on the print too.
right, that's what I'm saying. I need a new print to show me what's there. And I mean, I saw what was done up there and that shouldn't have been done.
Right. Well, we thought
And
we
again,
should help
you need to
stabilize.
talk to the people you hire.
Well, like I said, David's gonna have it on the map. He.
That doesn't matter.
Needs to be done.
It should be approved by us first,
Right.
before you put it all on the ground. It looked like it's 95% done. And I even told you that a couple days ago. It looks like the end of the pipe, which was out of the ground, I think is covered now. Is it?
Since you came,
It looks like you continue to do the work.
where the
And
end of
I'm
the
not
pipe was,
happy.
there's nothing there. It's just gravel right there.
All right, well, I'll take a look at it again.
Like I said, you just gotta finish bringing it back to the 2-to-1, and some more trees up top. And then we'll be ready to figure out.
Plant
what's
your
gonna
trees,
go-
get your
go
fence
down.
done, and then you stop.
Yeah,
Till you come back to us with something else.
right. But you still gotta finish making it 2-to-1. He's got one part of it done. Just gotta,
Not if we tell you to dig up the drain pipes.
no, but I'm saying the bank itself. So the bank is stable, you know, that's a 2-to-1 pitch.
The grade.
Yeah.
Do we know where these drains are, where they're going, what they're doing?
No, that's why
Not
we're,
at all. You don't know?
Yeah, so we put temporary drains down the bottom, right? And then this drain is on top of the fence line, and then it runs down and into daylight, which, like I said, is the gravel. And then it drains right into where the existing drain was before I even bought the property. For that. We put temporary drains connecting into that same drain pipe because the water was running down the center of the parking lot where when you drive through, you know what I mean? So it was always wet. So we did some drains around the perimeter and little drain box there and connected that right into the existing maybe old sewer drain on the sidewalk.
And why are you saying that they're temporary? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna change them
Well,
all?
because of, you know, of course, eventually, you know, one day we'll be able to pave or something like that. Of course, we're gonna need some kind of drainage system. Because when you have pavement, that water's gonna run somewhere, you know what I mean? So,
you also need to reduce the amount of vehicles on the property.
well, that's gonna be part of this. It's gonna have.
Yeah, but you have way more than you're supposed to now.
Right.
So it seems like you want to do stuff and you want us to stop it.
It's a lot, I'm sorry.
You want to do stuff and you want us to come out there and slap your hands, you can't do this, you can't do this. So I would expect to see a reduction in the amount of vehicles on that parking lot, because you're clearly well over the amount of vehicles that you told us was going to be there.
This project is vastly every resource I have, I'm just trying to hold up to be able to pay for all that plus all this at the same time. It's hard, you know what I mean?
I understand.
Do the best I can. You know, with the cars that come in there, we do like 15 cars a week. I mean, they're in and they're out, and then new ones come. It's like I can't stop. But
Doesn't seem like too many of those cars move that are near the building over here.
I
Seem like they sit there for quite a while.
Like day to day, you see the change, you know, it just end up coming back, you know, different.
So I would suggest for the next month, you have an engineer here to explain why the drainage is needed up top, and what type of drainage is going in, where it's connecting to,
Right now. it's
and
just
have it on paper.
Intake. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. At this point, I guess we could move back to public hearings. This is a public hearing to revise the livestock / poultry regulations and requirements of Naugatuck zoning regulations. Applicant is the Borough of Naugatuck. Public hearing opened on 9/15/21, and there is no end date as the borough is the applicant.
So from last month, I made the corrections or the revisions based on the few comments that we had. Those are in red. One of the things that was confusing was mixed use, not allowed on mixed use, which was already stated in the first paragraph. So that's why I have this highlighted wording was already in regulations. I removed it from the last page under lot size. There was another comment on number 2 as to provide the neighboring property the ability not to view the enclosure. I added that. And then the second page where it says lot size and number of backyards, poultry or rabbits for residential zone only was added. And then the first one, Rocky asked that I put in with a lot size under 25,000 square feet for 4 hens or less. And then the others I just removed on residential property excluding mixed use. And that was the only comments we had from the last meeting.
Something I just want to bring up, and like I said, I wasn't here for this last month. I will not be voting on this tonight. We vote next month, I'll have the chance to review it. This is a minor thing, more technical than anything else. If anybody in this area, I would say I'm 90% sure if they were going to buy chickens, they would probably go to Tractor Supply. Tractor Supply being the only store in the world that sells chickens. Problem is you have to buy a minimum 5, not 4. And that I confirmed with Tractor Supply. That is their minimum requirement. If you buy 1 chicken, you buy 5. So it's something we ought to consider upping the 4 to 5. If not, we're going to have orphan chickens running around.
Thank you.
Dogs are leaving.
Well,
They made
it's-
a revision, put 5 there, and they could revise it.
It is a public hearing. I mean, I don't think we're gonna be able to vote tonight anyway, because we're still on the B part. We're still awaiting some information.
Just for the record, we opened this at 7/17.
The borough initiated, we don't have to. close.
Right, no, we don't. We continue, we have time. I mean, at this point, it's gonna start getting cold. Chickens are not for sale at this point either. So it's something we can't continue along. see if there's any comments out there right now.
Is there anybody who has a comment regarding the chicken regulations at this point? Please raise your. Okay, go ahead, John, I think it is. John? Is that your-
John Frere. You have to unmute yourself.
You're muted, John.
123 Evelyn Drive. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm vehemently opposed to making any changes to the regulations because there are enough people already violating that. And I should know because I'm living with a chicken coop 75 feet off of my bedroom window. And I've been living with that for a little while now, even though I've informed my neighbor that they are in violation of zoning codes, which has forced me to spend several $1000s to put in an air conditioning system so that I can keep my windows closed so that I don't hear these wonderfully silent chickens when they're, I don't know, laying eggs or being attacked by some prey around their coop and making substantial noise bothering me and my wife. So after 44 years of living up here, I've had to keep my doors and windows closed, shut tight, so that I can try and enjoy sleeping in my bedroom and in my house. They are not quiet. And also, when the wind picks up and comes in the right direction, they stink. Okay? If anybody wants to come in my house in next summer, I will shut off the air conditioner and I'll let you come in and you can sniff and you can hear. Okay? All these regulations you think you're going to put into place, they're not going to be followed through with. We've already got one set of illegal chickens. We have some new people moved in, and they've already got their illegal chicken coop set up down the street. So they don't care. They don't look at the regulations. They just do what they want, and they will continue to do what they want regardless. And the regulation will not be enforced. They simply won't be enforced. I've lived up here for 44 years. I've had 4 different neighbors in that house. I don't need a war with the neighbor. I called to see if I could complain about that anonymously, and I was told by someone in the office there, no, that my neighbor would know where the complaint was coming from. I don't need that kind of a situation in the twilight years of my life here in Naugatuck. I just don't need that. What I want to see is the current regulations being enforced, not weakened. Because just because people are violating it in mass, we're gonna change it. We're gonna have kids raising chickens in condominium complexes. I am vehemently opposed to it. Just because a lot of people are violating it doesn't mean that we have to be changing the rules. We need to enforce them. Because if you're going to do that, then the setback situations with storage units, nobody enforces that either. So the more people that violate that, we'll go and change that too. Why not? No. I am, as I said, I am vehemently opposed. I'm living through it. I'm living with the consequences of it. It has cost me money and substantial inconvenience. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, John. Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
You unmuted.
Hello,
Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
can you hear me?
Yes, MGS.
Okay, my name is Joyce Smith. I own a multifamily home on 11 Wood Street in Naugatuck. I've had the home for about 30 years. At one point, it was a really nice neighborhood. It's gotten to the point where 7 Wood Street has chickens, 3 chickens and a duck. The coop is within probably 10 feet of my fence with the door that opens up toward my property. I love animals. I love poultry, livestock, domestic animals, whatever. But when my tenants are calling me up, telling me that there's rats, very large rats, crawling under my fence into my yard, that's a problem. Ed, I know you're aware that we have an issue going on here. You've looked into it, whatever, but it's not moving quick enough. Chickens themselves don't attract rats, but their feed and their droppings and their eggs do attract rats. Okay, so what am I going to have to do? Get an exterminator to keep the rats off of my property and out of my tenants' apartments? Not acceptable. I talk to you, you tell me I have to call the health department. I call the health department, they say zoning isn't doing anything. They're not going along, they're just letting it happen, so we can't do anything. So I've gotten a major runaround. You allow more people in town to have chickens, and what's going to happen? I want the answer to that one. I agree with the previous gentleman too. It's a nuisance. If you have 3 acres, I believe it's what, 3 acres now?
Yes.
To have chickens?
Yes.
Okay. I live in Prospect. I have 5 properties in Naugatuck that I own. I'm not a slumlord, I'm a landlord. I take really good care of my properties. But when I see stuff like this, when my tenants tell me their teenagers are coming home with at night after work, and there's a huge rat sitting at the bottom of the stairs, that's a problem. Huge problem. What do? You're just going to add more chickens to the town, and the problem isn't going to get solved. I'm to the point, quite honestly, if this continues, I'm going to do legal action or go to media. I've had it up to my eyeballs with it. I don't even know what else to say. It's just adding, you're just going to be adding to a problem that you're not going to be able to control. You can't control what you got now. If you're going to lower the amount of the acreage or whatever, 3 acres, okay, that's a big lot. I have an acre of property that I live on. Could I have chickens? Yeah, I could probably get them where it wouldn't bother the neighbors. But under an acre of property, no way. You're talking allowing multifamily homes to have livestock and chickens and whatever? Not acceptable. So what I'm asking is the commission seriously think about this, because it's not just, as the first gentleman said, it's not just a noise and a smell and whatever. It is a true health hazard. Look up what diseases rodents like rats carry. I really have nothing else to say. I'm just asking the commission to please think seriously about changing the current rules.
What's Wood Street?
Over in Union City, the
Near-
side of Cumberland Farms.
Off of North Main Street.
Oh, okay.
And I think there was one more person, Debbie.
Hey, Debbie. Debbie, you can speak, you just need to mute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. Hi, Debbie Levesque here. My husband Pete here too, 204 East Waterbury Road in Naugatuck. Our issue is with beekeeping. We have a neighbor who started beekeeping. We supported it with 4 or 5 hives. Our problem now is the large quantity of bees 15 feet from our property line. We have 30 plus hives and a 200 square foot beehive with thousands of bees, literally. So this is the problem that was caused. This summer, I've repeatedly had to request my neighbor not smoke and stir up his beehives on weekends. This agitates the bees. If I'm having visitors, I have to request ahead of time that he not do this so that I could have company over. I should not have to ask permission to use my own property. And he disregards it anyway. He smoked them anyway. While sitting on my front porch, I've had bees fly and get stuck in my hair. This is terrifying, to have bees stuck in the back of your hair buzzing and you can't get them out of your hair. While sitting in our backyard, we have a pool. The bees are attracted to pools and chlorine to the point of obstructing our use of our pool. They congregate on the pool ladder in clumps of 20 or 30 bees per rung, so you can't get into the pool. I have agitated bees with their stingers up on the water. We have dead bees in our filter, dead bees in the pool. I have to skim the pool constantly while I'm in the pool to get rid of the bees. So there's no enjoyment of our pool or our yard. My beekeeper, his family can't even use their own pool because there's so many bees. I've purchased lavender plants. I've put dryer sheets around. I've tried. It's just outrageous. I've been stung at least twice removing bees from my pool and yard. I cannot enjoy sitting in my yard, have a drink of iced tea, read a book without bees landing on me, being in my drink. If I'm grilling for dinner, there's bees hovering around me. They followed me into the house. I have family and friends who have to carry EpiPens. They do not feel comfortable. Why would they? Also, what would this do to my property value? Who wants to move in next to thousands of bees? No one that I know of, okay? The beehive should be placed in a quiet corner of someone's property. Not next to where other people are walking and prohibiting people from enjoying their own property. The property I'm speaking of is about an acre. This is vastly too many beehives to have for an acre. I know the state says what, maybe 6 or 7 beehives for an acre. That would probably be fine, again, at a quiet corner. But I'm thinking even like 2 acres to have unlimited bees, no way in a suburban area. Plus there's the issue of who's inspecting these hives. They're not being inspected. They have not been inspected. You've got the food issues of the honey that's being produced. You've got disease questions. And again, the number of hives is just so extensive. I did send in paperwork to Mr. Carter. I do have a picture here that I also sent in just to give you a look at how many hives. Okay, this is just some of them. This is 15 feet away from me. And then that's not enough. We have more here. It's really excessive. So besides affecting our quality of life, which we have none because we can't use our own yard in the height of the spring or summer season because of the interference of so many bees, nor can we have people over who don't feel comfortable. As for my feelings on this issue, I'm angry, irritated, upset. I've lost sleep over the problem. I would ask that you limit the number of beehives per acre to just a few, and for over an acre, an acceptable small amount in a suburban area. It's important that hives be inspected for safety, food quality, and disease on a regular basis. These are my main concerns with the issue.
And where they can be placed.
Where they
on the
can be
property.
placed, and then when would, like say you did pass a regulation, how long would it be before someone who is in violation would have to do something about their violations? That was our other question. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. John, go ahead, John.
May I be allowed to make one more comment with regard to chickens?
Yes. Go ahead.
You might be told by people that have chicken coops that they're gonna keep their chickens in their coops. You'd be surprised to find out how many excuses there are for their chickens to be in your yard, digging up your plantings while they're pecking and scratching for grubs. Oh, my daughter left the door open. Oh, the latch got stuck. Oh, we just forgot to do it. And then those chickens end up, they don't know where their property is. See, they won't stay in their 12,000 square foot area. They're gonna go into somebody else's area and dig up their property. That is property damage that is going to happen. It will happen. It has happened to me. And if we make this problem bigger, it's gonna happen to more people. So please, do not change the regulation and enforce the one that is in place now. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Obviously, being an engineer doesn't make you an expert in chickens, but I've raised them for 10 years. And I looked at this fairly quickly. I would say that they do make a good amount, the hens will make a good amount of noise when they're laying. Rats are a problem you end up dealing with. I've had in the past, I've had problems with rats. They do like to travel. If you let them out, boy, they will cross that road, and you wonder why are they doing that. So they will travel if they're let out. As far as the smell, yeah, if you're within 10 feet in a hot summer day, you can probably smell them. I think that having a coop 5 or 10 feet away from the property line, I think is probably too close. This is my mind, which is what you're allowing a fence 5 feet from the property line and the coop 10 feet from the property line. I think that's probably, in my opinion, that's too close. Because you're requiring it further from the house that's having it than it is from the property line, the neighbor. So, and then you make a comment at the end of these farms shall have no limit to the number of poultry or rabbits that may be kept. I don't know whether that's appropriate there. I don't know. Look to Ned to say whether that's a. Yeah, I mean, do you say now that there's no limit? I mean, you may want to have a limit someday. I don't know.
Thank you, sir. Any comments from our commissioners? No, sir. Anything you want to add at this point?
Who's our chicken enforcer?
Let's check.
I couldn't.
I mean, right now, any violation does fall under the CEO. Unfortunately, we can't regulate something if we don't know if there's a problem.
Yeah.
It's like, your next door neighbor takes out a gun and fires it, you can't do anything until you call the police. That's our policeman right there. All right, if he is unaware that there is a problem, can't fix it. And unfortunately, with one person in that position, we certainly can't drive around house to house and check. Like, you don't even have the authority to go on there of checking. So, I mean, again, if we don't know it, we can't fix it. So at this point, if there's no further questions, I guess we will continue this to the 17th at 6:10 p.m.
That's what I'm saying. It.
Just one thing, the question about the complaint being required to be signed.
Ed, we can't,
The-
when are you gonna continue it till?
Comment about the complaint, a complaint to the zoning officer being signed, required to be signed.
No, there was nothing about that. It was people want to make anonymous complaints.
Okay.
And we do not take necessarily anonymous complaints in regard to anything.
So it wasn't because they were signed, because they had to give their name.
Right. And many people don't want to give their names. And I understand why.
Okay, but remember the reason that rule was adopted because back in the 90s, there were a lot of anonymous calls to the zoning officer. Couldn't tell whether somebody was just complaining because of merit to it or just because of the second neighbor.
Can't hear. Can't
So
hear.
have staff like you don't now to follow up on all these.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
You ask them to speak into the microphone, please.
Yeah, we can't hear what's being said.
That regulation was adopted because it was in the 90s where there were a lot of calls, late 80s, 90s, where there were a lot of calls, complaints that were anonymous. And it was hard for the zoning officer to go out and police them, because back then, I think there might have been a zoning officer in the system too. But it was difficult then, so then the commissioner required that there be an identification to the person complaining, so the staff knew that the complaint had a name attached to it. It appeared at least on his face, prima facie, that it had some merit to it. You might want to look at some kind of a modification of that, so that maybe you might receive a complaint and not have to disclose it. That's going to stop people from letting you know that there are violations.
Well, first of all, someone can FOI, and I have to tell them how I found out.
But yes, they can, but that's another step.
Right. And I tell people, the only reason I don't walk to a door and say to somebody, oh, this person here called you or called in a complaint. That's not something the way it's handled. But I will never tell somebody that I will never, ever give their name out, because I cannot do that. I cannot guarantee that. If it's FOI'd, or if I'm going to go to the next level and go to court, and I'm in a court case right now, not on chickens, but on something else, that they're going to be called in on the case. So many people, it's up to them how far they want to go.
Well, but I think the point I'm making is that in order for you to be aware of something, someone has to give their name. That's the current process.
Yes.
Okay. So following what the chairman mentioned was that you can't enforce something you don't know about, right?
So obviously, I don't think that's necessarily the issue that I don't know about it. Yes, I get 40 to 50 complaints a week in general. I'm one person. I'm trying to get out there to do it. I'm seriously considering that this is something I want to continue to do, because I'm getting very frustrated with complaints.
So it's not the fact that you don't feel that you're not being informed.
No, I'm being
You feel that there's
informed. I
too
just
many.
can't get everywhere all the time.
If the issue was the identification of someone, and you felt that you didn't know about a lot of these issues, then I was going to recommend there could be a modification to that process, but
No,
if you're saying it.
that's the least of it.
Okay, that's your least of your concerns. Thank you for your considerations. Yeah, so I know you're one person, I get it. Thank you. Thank you.
Just to clarify what I said, we can't enforce something we don't know about, only because we've had people make a statement tonight that I'm not gonna quote.
Right, well, that again, it's a consideration.
So at this point, we are going to, like I said, continue this hearing until 17th at 6:10 p.m. At this point, I would just like to go around to our commissioners, see if there's any comments in general. No comment, thank you. Tony?
None.
None.
Really?
Good. And I have nothing to add at this point. Our CEO, is there anything you would like to add?
There is a problem with the location that does have bees. I don't know the first thing about bees. I've gone to the head beekeeper for the state of Connecticut, who did a surprise visit. He did state, and I saw it. I thought it was an issue. I got them involved, and hopefully they will follow through what they're supposed to do. I've been to the property 4 or 5 times.
This property.
The one with the bees.
Yeah.
East Waterbury
Yes.
Road.
Yeah, that's got crazy.
To me, it is extremely excessive, and the head beekeeper stated he thought it was excessive. Getting them to follow through with me, I told him I have a meeting tonight. I sent him and the regulations we put forward are the state regulations. They're not ours.
Okay.
They are exactly from what the state,
We
and
discussed
he
that
said,
when
no,
started
that's what
this.
we recommend. And this person was registered as a beekeeper with the state, but at a much, much lesser amount. And even the head guy could not determine how many hives there were. So it's an excessive issue. It's going to take some time. I think the state has to come down on it, because they have a lot more authority than we have at times, especially when he filled out one thing and he's doing something else. There's a lot of things I told him, you should move these from here. This shouldn't be here. This, the location of where his shed is, according to the state, regulations, it's allowed. The amount of bees in the shed might be the concern. You know, and I just can't walk on property. That's another thing. I can only go to the front of a house, up the front door. I cannot go wandering through the yard on my own.
What's he doing, selling honey?
He is doing a lot of stuff.
He must have gallons of it.
And I don't know if he's selling it or not, or if he's giving it away. You know, you talk to these people, they're not doing anything wrong. You know, they're doing everything legally, but, you know, the state is saying what they're saying.
I thought that was a beer.
So it is what it is.
So what is the state's enforcement track? Obviously, they have the ability. Do they follow up with their enforcement?
They said that, you know, from what he told me, his name is Mark Crichton, and he is sending out a letter to them requesting a visit, an official visit to the house to inspect everything officially. Again, it's private property, so you do have to get the ability to get on the property. So I've informed the owner of the property that he has been called, that he's been to the house, he wants to meet with him. He said, well, I haven't heard from you. So I think that's in the process right now. But I have emailed a couple of times with Mr. Crichton. I've spoken to him on the phone a couple of times. And I'm trying to get him to follow through with it, because I really don't know how to determine.
So if we make this fee regulation, our regulation, do you then become the enforcer of the regulation?
I
rather
think
than
from the
staying
zoning
here?
part, I don't think from the state part, because I do believe they're required to still register with the state of Connecticut.
But if he's getting 40 to 50 complaints, there's no way any, you need to have more people.
That's just zoning complaints. That doesn't include your like.
I mean, I get unregistered
So what are we
cars,
doing as
signs, this,
the
that.
town to address
We do the best we could. He just comes in, he does what he has to do.
Every
It
morning,
continues
my
the next
voice
day.
is
I can only
full
imagine.
with complaints. I
I
get
can
Q
only
alerts, I get emails,
Yeah.
I get,
Oh, you must be. We all, we should be addressing about this.
and it's, you know, I'm in a court case right now. I have to defend everything I do. I've got an attorney questioning me on everything I do.
Thank you, Ed. Are there any comments from the public? Hearing none, I would.
Wayne, it's Jan. I just sent you a quick SMS. Rocky had to leave early. So can you have Jimmy put this up on YouTube so we can see this meeting? I think it's important. As, you know, as quick as they can.
We don't have that ability.
Yes, we do.
We do?
Yeah, you do.
But we have the ability that I can have Jim convert it and then I can email it to him.
Oh, he can get it.
I can get it to
Get it to
Rocky.
As soon as you could, please. Thank you.
And let me just state for the record also, we didn't decide on our own to change the chicken regulations. They came to us to request that we modify our regulations to allow for them. That's how it came to be. With that, we decided to include bees because that's becoming bigger. We weren't aware of any bee hives in town until this all came about.
No idea. Thank you, Laura. At this point, then, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Second. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.